Hi friends, welcome back. So has the stock market crash started? Well, that's the subject of today's video. I want to show you some headlines, some data, and we'll go through this all together. So let's jump right in. This was the story that really caught my attention here. Stocks give up early gains again as 70% of the S&P 500 is in correction territory. And if you've been seeing some crazy moves to the downside in your portfolio, you're not alone. You and 70% of your friends are feeling the same thing. And the other pattern I've been noticing lately this past trading week is markets would open up strong. Looks like someone's buying the dip. And then come around lunchtime, people are like, you know what, forget that. And they start selling off. So this is what we've been seeing. And in fact, this is something that we haven't seen for a while. You can see here, S&P 500 on pace for longest losing streak in 6 months. And it's not coincidence that we're going into earnings. And in fact, in a couple of days from now, we're going to have the Tesla earnings, which is going to be really an interesting one. Tesla's been down today. It's down like 3.5%. I think people are really, really nervous about earnings. Microsoft was down. Apple was down. Nvidia is still showing some strength today. Google and Meta were up. And you can see here, many of the chips and stocks are actually down, though. So Google is kind of the weird one compared to all the other chip companies. And also, too, I want to show you guys this. This is a crazy thing. This was someone posted on Twitter/X. True story. Whoever this Bill Rink guy is, on March 26th, this is posting a picture of me and a Chinese hacker. And he wrote, one of the hackers may be at YouTube, Chris Norland, who worked in China. I'm just laughing. Okay, so let me make this clear. This is just utter nonsense. And you can decide if this person looks like me or not. This one's me. This is some random person. I don't even know that person's name. I am not Chinese, nor am I a hacker. So I don't know what to say. But I will say this is stuff you have to deal with in today's world. If you tell people that their Tesla stock is going down, they get upset and literally just make stuff up. I don't know what else to say. One thing I can point to is please check out a copy of my book. You'll clearly see I'm not Chinese or whatever. It's called Positive Angle. And also too, my book is largely about maintaining a positive attitude and forward direction, despite crazy headwinds you might face. And in this situation, facing people literally spreading just fake nonsense and sending it to the BBC, which is not cool. So just had to share that with you. I got a chuckle out of it. But also, too, you have to understand, like, there are some crazies out there. And what are you going to do? I don't know what to say. Okay, anyway, going back to the news here. I showed my wife. She's like, what the heck is this? It's like, I don't know. But here's the headline. This is real. Okay, mortgage rates hit the highest level since November, pushing monthly payment for a typical home close to $3,000. And I actually, what I really want to do in this community, and I always tell you guys this all the time, is just share information with each other and learn from each other. So like for this one, when I see that, say your typical monthly home payment is $3K, is that what you're experiencing? Is that what you and your friends are paying, right? And it's good to just hear from other people on the ground. Because so for example, if the numbers come out, hey, I'm paying this, and it's like, yep, I totally pay that. And it was like, nope, I don't pay that. And we're like, oh, where you live? It's like, and you learn about the world. And, when you read these kind of headlines as well, and this is something I emphasize with you is whenever we read headlines, understand there are real people behind said headlines. Like, for example, you read layoffs and understand that people really did lose their jobs. Or in this example, mortgage rates passed 7% for first time in 2024, right? So if you're out in the home market these days, you would probably know this. You'd be like, yeah, we went to the bank. It's like, dang, rates are really high. Or for example, maybe you locked in your mortgage at, 2 or 3, and you're like, yep, I'm not moving. I'm not getting to that 7% stuff. And this is coming from Freddie Mac. And I guess they're saying this week was actually 7.1. Also too, we've been talking about this as well, where, the Fed, they put out their dot plot saying, oh yeah, we're going to cut. Yeah, right. In public though, recently they've been like hinting at possible hike. What the heck? Now, whether or not they do it, who knows? My personal opinion is I think they're probably going to stand pat. Should they hike? So my other opinion on this is that should not be off the table. Wall Street just like really wanted like 6, 7 kind of stuff, which is kind of nuts in terms of hikes. And then the Fed's like, oh, maybe we'll give you 3. That was in their dot plot, but not in their actual, kind of public statements. And this is what they're saying now, though, because we know that inflation's a bit more sticky in the last CPI report. This is coming from John Williams at the Fed. I definitely don't feel urgency to cut interest rates. I think monetary policy is doing exactly what we would like to see. Fed Bostic also came out, this is on April 19th, says he is not in a, quote, mad dash hurry on rate cuts. So The talk that they're saying right now is if they do any cuts, it'll be at the end of the year sometime. I'm saying perhaps stand pat. And there was one thing I saw recently. It was I honestly I don't remember which bank, but they were saying that there's a possibility we're looking at March 2025 until we get the first cut. But that it's all over the map. That's a year from now. But my personal opinion is don't wait. Don't expect anything anytime soon. One of the big holdups, and this was an interesting one, was rents. And the headline is rents are the Fed's biggest stumbling block in taming U.S. inflation. Essentially with inflation, right? A lot of this is housing. So we looked at your mortgages, take up a big portion of, what you have to pay out every month. Also to rent. So it looks like, and the way you read this chart, so the black is February 2020. The dark blue is February 2020 to 2024. And then the light blue is 2024, March. So the South saw major rent increases or inflation, like 10%. That was the last 4 years, I guess. And then in March 2024, it's 6.3% is what it is right now. I'm just looking at rents. You guys can see this here. The West had some rent gains as well. I mean, it's everywhere. So you're looking at just recently from year over year, I think it's year over year, anywhere from 4 to 6% increase in your rent. Now, the question I pose to you, let's say, for example, we'll just use example, the Midwest, okay? Say you're in the Midwest, say you're renting an apartment, and your rent went up, 6.4%. Is that what you experienced? That's why I asked everyone the same way. Is your mortgage $3K, or is your rent go up, say, 6%? And then the question I would follow up with that is, did your wages also increase, say, 6% to, coincide with that? And this is sort of the dilemma that we're in. Is rents and mortgages go up, people ask for more money, which is natural, and it's an endless spiral, right? So what are we going to do with this? and one of the things you got to do is you got to take out the essentially the free money out of the market, and you can't go back to zero. If you give people more buying power, it essentially increases demand, and so people are able to spend said prices. But eventually, right, if say mortgages are so high where no one's going to take out a mortgage anymore, buying demand goes down. Hopefully prices will cool. But here's the thing. Like, for example, here we're talking about home supply here because this is one of the things I've been talking about with the real estate market. It says March homes sales dropped despite a surge in supply. And basically they're pointing to, again, the mortgage rates are up. And this was something else I wanted to point out to you guys regarding, are we seeing market crash or not? This chart, and this says the chart shows a dangerous stock market risk for baby boomers could be facing. Is sort of like how long does it take to recover if there is indeed a crash? So back in the 30s, it took, from the peak to, getting back to those levels took 26 years. I think this one is showing the 60s to the 80s, took like 16 years. And then from the dot-com bubble to recover took about 13 years. And I thought that was kind of an interesting one. And one of the sort of signals of whether or not you're top of the bubble is everyone, your hairdresser, your taxi driver, and just kind of random person in the street talking about stocks, right? That's when you know you're in a bubble. And the thing that I point to is look at YouTube. When you got people who are like, this is real, like dude with green hair and mugshots being really popular giving financial advice, you got a problem. Plus, like, people actually listen to dudes with backward baseball hats, giving his opinion on like how stocks are all going to go to, $3,000 in the year 2024. For real, that was his prediction for Tesla. Or for example, another one, and I'm saying, these are clear signs of bubble. Or this guy, this was recently, see this video if you haven't already. This Electric Viking dude literally changes his video midstream and people still watch this guy. It's like a total shill. It's ridiculous. So I made a bingo card on how to identify this stuff. And you even have people giving live shows saying, hey, your car stock's going to make you rich, go to $11,000. Seriously, that's what they say in the live show. It's so ridiculous. And just reminds me of, why do people post, say, mean pictures? Remember the guy said the mean pictures that I'm sort of a Chinese spy. Why do people do that? Because they're sad that they got late to the party and they're sad that their parachute pants aren't going to go up anymore. Why am I mentioning parachute pants? So I want to put this in perspective. So imagine, there was a time, and I'm old enough to remember this, I'm 49, and for those of you older, you'd know this stuff, these parachute pants and this kind of style. This was popular. And there was a time when if you bought early and you made a parachute pant company, you could sell tons of parachute pants. Everyone was wearing these things. But if you, said, oh my God, look at all these people making money with parachute pants, and you got in late and you put all your life savings into, this parachute pant company, and the parachute pant bubble ends, suddenly you're stuck left holding the bag, and now you're just yelling on the internet every day, lashing out, saying, oh, fake news, right? You're just sad. that you missed your chance. And that's just essentially what a bubble is. You have to understand what kind of world that we live in. Moreover, I want to point this out that sometimes people lie to you for money. Look at Elizabeth Holmes, lies to you for money. Look at Adam Newman, this WeWork, lies to you for money. Sam Bankman-Fried lies to you for money. That's a real thing. And this is also real. If you come out and you try to tell the truth, sometimes people don't like it, and you do face some real serious consequences. This is unfortunate. I make no jokes about this, but if you remember, I told you guys about this before. The Boeing whistleblower John Barrett found dead in the U.S. So he came out and was like, "Yo, something's wrong over at Boeing. Who knows what the real story is with the being found dead? This is real." And it was just yesterday. The people were testifying in front of Congress saying how bad the problems were over at Boeing. If you've seen some of this testimony, it's pretty serious stuff. I think they were saying there were obvious panel gap kind of stuff, and then the thing I remember I read one of the descriptions. It was saying you would tell he's like, hey, whatever 80-90% of these things are would be a problem, and then you tell management, and manager's like, forget about it, just jump on it. And so they called the maneuver it was like the Tarzan maneuver or something like they were calling, where like people literally jumping on the thing to try to push it together. And it's laughable, like how ridiculously dangerous this is. And we're in a time to where like people are easily fooled. I'll give you a simple example. People get really upset, and it's funny. Again, it's just like bubble behavior. Like if I say, hey guys, maybe Elon Musk doesn't always tell you the truth, and now he's like asking you for $56 billion. And people are like, oh, yeah, give him the $56 billion. And just think about that. And sort of the culture that we're in. I'm just pointing this other stuff out. Also, too, I've seen this stuff before. I mentioned the Intel thing because I think this is a really great example if you're too young to remember this stuff. It's a real company. I always say that. Intel was a real company. Just it got in a bubble, right? And actually never recovered from that. And so we're starting to see that with like Tesla. And we're going to look back, years from now, like, why are all these people buying this, car company thinking it was going to build like a bazillion robots? And there was some guy like, yeah, we're going to build lots of robots, guys. I'm going to put them in your home. And like people are going to look back and laugh. And I understand that the Tesla bull's like, oh, Chris, you're so dumb. You don't see the future. And all I have to say, my answer is, this stuff, right? This is the world that we live in. These are the people giving you advice, right? And they're basically selling you parachute pants. So good luck with that. And then the other question is going to be, okay, so again, Nvidia is a real company like Intel. Can it maintain that kind of, essentially rocket ship sort of chart? That's what the chart looks like right now. It's been crazy. And this is sort of also too what's going on in the markets is we have the Bitcoin halving. So as of recording, we're about a day away from this stuff, and we'll see how it affects the markets. Now going forward, I just want to give you a sort of premise of sort of where we are, what's going on in the macro, what's going on with the individual companies, and the question is going to be, can you still grow when you've already grown quite a bit? So I showed you an Nvidia chart, et cetera, and they grew quite a lot. Everyone's like, oh my God, I love Nvidia, but like, how long can they maintain that? And here's a good example of that. As a company matures, you can talk about, Amazon. It says here, headline, Amazon Prime looked like it had plateaued. Now a record 3 out of 4 Americans use it. Okay, so if 3 out of 4 Americans are in Amazon Prime, and this is the number. So as of March 2024, it's like 180 million Amazon Prime users, right? So basically, subscribe to Amazon, you get free shipping. I'm sure you got it. I'm sure you know. Now you could say, well, there's still more people in America that don't have it. They can still buy it. And this is the thing that you have to think about. This may be individuals, 180 million, right? But you have to say how many people in your household need an Amazon Prime. Like for example, say you have a family of 4. Does mom and dad both need the Amazon Prime? Do the kids need the Prime? Chances are only one, right? Only one of the parents is going to have it, and then 3 people wouldn't have it, etc. You get my point? So even though not every single American has it, but 75% of households do have it. So that's sort of where you get those numbers. And so that's why you see Amazon investing in their now TV, which basically, and they can do pretty well. My wife and I, we just started watching this Fallout show. We're on episode 2. It's a good show. They're doing really well. However, they try to grow in other ways by say acquiring companies like iRobot. However, they get caught by regulators. So this is going to be a challenge for many companies going forward. We've had this crazy run. Early on you can grow like nuts, but you get to a point where like everyone has your service. How much more can you possibly grow? And so Netflix is facing this issue as well. They did surprise. They just had their earnings report just a couple minutes ago. I guess it surprised Wall Street in terms of how many customers they're adding, like 9.33 million. So this essentially measures your growth. This is how many signups. It says first quarter signups are nearly double Wall Street projections, right? So they're getting people to sign up. But the question is though, is like you get to a point to where everyone signs up in USA, and like where can you grow? And so the thing that lately that Netflix has been trying to do, a couple things is really interesting. So one is they've been doing really a lot of foreign programming, Korean programming in particular. I'm here in Korea, and I can tell you like the money from Netflix is flowing because here in Korea we can do shows like at a third of the cost of Hollywood productions, even less than that, and so have pretty good quality. You guys probably know Squid Game, but there's well beyond that. There's a lot more stuff. I'm just mentioning Squid Game. And so it's just a really good bang for your buck. So that's one way they're trying to grow, by cutting costs, by moving productions to other places. They're also cutting multiple shows, right? They're trying to like over 100 shows. So they're trying to figure out, okay, let's look at the bottom line, right? And this is definitely going to have an impact on their programming, because that is their game, right? Is showing you shows and keeping you watching, but they got to do it at a profit. Also, they're trying to get into. It was recently. I think they made a deal. Is it WWF now, or is it called WFC? I can't remember. It's the professional wrestling, and you guys can correct me. I just don't. I think they joined, and there used to be two professional wrestling leagues for some reason. I don't know the whole story behind pro wrestling, but I do know though that Netflix is spent a whole bunch of money on acquiring that kind of content. So that's where they're trying to grow. And also too, with our crazy moves in the market, and sort of I'm giving you an overview of what's been going on. You have these people who are betting against bonds and doing so with leverage. Now I'm showing you the bond stuff. It's not just in bonds. You see it quite a bit in stocks, and so that's why you get these like crazy moves. And even the IMF is saying like, yo, these hedge funds could be destabilizing our market. That was the headline. Like, look at this. Bond wagers make some hedge funds too big to fail. IMF says, like, what? And they were saying the ones betting against the market, it's like betting against the bond market, it's like 50.2%, and they're using leverage stuff. And actually, it reminds me of the Big Short. So essentially, right, if you know the Michael Burry story, is basically a hedge fund, right? And they see something in the data, they're like, yo, we got to be shorting these things. I think, in my opinion, I think there's a lot of things that we're to talk about. You could talk about fraud and bubble-licious activity in our stock market. I also think the money is seeping out of China. And I always bring up this Evergrande stuff. If you don't see news about Evergrande, don't assume good. Just assume that they're trying to keep it quiet, or we haven't yet heard of another bankruptcy or whatever. The last one was Country Garden. There's always something after that. And also, too, we have remember what happened with Silicon Valley Bank. What's going on with the regional banks? I think the commercial banking, the real estate is in real trouble, because we can see it in the numbers, right? If people, took out a whole bunch of loans to refurbish a bunch of buildings, to rent them out to companies are now work from home. There's no one to rent to, and rates are high. And if you're in variable rates, which I think a lot of these things are, and the rates are going to stay high, you're in trouble. So a lot of people are sweating it over there on Wall Street. So anyway, we track all of these things. Main advice, and it's the best advice you can always give someone, is don't put all your eggs in one basket, and don't rely with people with backwards baseball hats or green hair for good advice. So I just try to keep you guys informed as best as I can. And, hopefully we can have a community to help each other and understand that, how can I say, there's a lot of information out there to know, and we try to help each other get it all, because there's so much. So anyway, I do appreciate your time, everyone, and I'll catch you next video.